What is going on? Welcome back to the Yeti Express DFS podcast presented to you by Draft Dashboard. Remember, you can try out all the tools that I use in this video 30 days for $1 by clicking my link in the description below. Gets you access to all these cheat sheets for all four sports currently right now. It's basically a free trial, so you can use all the stuff that I'm using in this video free for 30 days by clicking my link in the description below. Gets you access to all four sports. Here's the cheat sheet. For now, we just have a few plays. It trickles in more towards closer to lock. It is only Tuesday. We'll get into the position optimizer. I'll go over my plays for this week. But before we do that, click the thumbs up button. That always helps me out. If you're new to the channel, welcome and subscribe. That always helps me out. We're going to do a quick review of this last weekend on Sunday. So here's our review of Sunday. We put in $50 and we won 67, so we were up $17 this week. Here's my best lineup. I had some really good lineups that just, we had this is our top lineup. It was Watson, Fournette, Jones, Michael Thomas, Hollywood Brown. He got hurt for most of this game and still put up 11. If he doesn't get hurt, he probably puts up closer to 18. Will Fuller with 56. Jimmy Graham. I would play Jimmy Graham in all my lineups again. He was in a really good spot without Devontae Adams in there. Just didn't work out all that great. And then we had Thielen. We had the Vikings defense. Here's another one. Watson, Fournette, Jones, Thomas, Hollywood Brown, Graham, Diggs, Vikings defense. But all in all, pretty good weekend. We were all over the money. Like I said, we were, we had 42 out of 100 lineups placed, so that's pretty good. Alrighty, let's get into this week's picks. First up, Patrick Mahomes. He's pretty expensive. I don't know if I'm going to get there a whole lot. 7,500 is a pretty big price discrepancy. But I do want to include him. This game's got like a 56 total. So I'll have some of him, but probably not a ton. Next up, Lamar Jackson against Cincinnati. Cincinnati's defense is not good. Cincinnati struggles in general. Lamar Jackson, 6,900. Again, expensive, but I do want some of him. Deshaun Watson. I've been playing him the last 3 weeks. I'm not going to stop now. He's been in really good matchups, and he's a really good quarterback, really big play potential, running upside. Nothing to say against that game against Cincinnati. Deshaun Watson's a great play. Probably my favorite play of the week is Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray, 6,500. He also had a price increase, but Atlanta is dead last against second to dead last against quarterbacks. They just struggle. They just got lit up by the Houston Texans. Matt Ryan against Arizona. Matt Ryan's been really good. Arizona, again, 29th against quarterbacks. He's in a good spot, priced up a little bit. None of these value guys really work out for me. You could go to Dak, but I think that game is going to be a blowout. The Jets are so bad. Kirk Cousins at home. I had quite a bit of Kirk Cousins this last week. Worked out well for me. He's 5,200. Eagles, 16th against quarterbacks. Cousins looked good last week, but seems like the Vikings play really good against bad teams, and then they find ways to lose against good teams. So we'll have some of them, not a ton. Running backs. First up, Ezekiel Elliott against the Jets. This game, I don't expect there to be a ton of points in this game. I expect the Cowboys to win and control this game. But I think that the running backs are interesting here. So Ezekiel Elliott, I'm interested in. Alvin Kamara is probably my most interesting play, just because he's only 8K and the Jaguars have been absolutely torched by running backs. McCaffrey ran all over him last week. Alvin Kamara is a very similar player to McCaffrey. Not as good, but very similar. Next up, I have Leonard Fournette. This dude's just he just does everything. 29.5, 26.7. He's yet to have a week under 5 or under 10 or under 12 even. Super consistent, a lot of volume. I'm going to be interested in Fournette this week. The opponent's defensive rank is 26th against running backs, though, so I probably won't have as much as I have been. Le'Veon Bell, again, last week I said that he's due to have a big game. He had a pretty good game. He had a lot of catches. They got down so much in that game. I think this game will be a little bit closer than last week's game against Philly. Still have some interest in Le'Veon Bell at 6,400. He's got a pretty safe floor of about, it looks like it's about 18 is his floor. Just hasn't ripped off a ceiling game yet, so I'm still interested in him, though. Then for value, I don't think I had anybody down here. Just double check, make sure. Didn't like anybody down here. So that was it for running backs. Wide receivers. First up, Julio Jones to connect with Matt Ryan. Julio's in a pretty good spot here. 19th against wide receivers is Arizona. Julio Jones, pretty good spot if you want to pair him up with Matt Ryan. Michael Thomas, I'm actually going to avoid this week. I think people might chase him. He had a $1,200 price increase, and he's going to see a lot of Jalen Ramsey unless he's traded. So I think I'm good on Michael Thomas this week. I'm going to go out on a limb and just avoid him. The guy I want is DeAndre Hopkins against Kansas City. Hopkins really hasn't had a big game in 4 weeks. His price is $7,400. I really think that DeAndre Hopkins is the play this week. He'll be chalky, but I want a ton of him. So I just avoided Thomas so I could get more of him. Then next up, I have Adam Thielen. Adam Thielen had a pretty good game. Eagles secondary isn't that great. 28th against wide receivers. I think we could see the Vikings throw the ball again this week. I mentioned it last week. I figured they would not run as much. They did not. And Thielen and Diggs weren't the plays together, but Thielen and Cousins were a pretty good play. Next up, I have Larry Fitzgerald, Mr. Consistency. This dude just gets targets. He catches the ball. Doesn't rip off big plays. He's getting older, but he's in a smash spot against Atlanta here. At 6,100, he's got almost a 16 projection. I'll take that all day long. I'll have a lot of Larry Fitzgerald this week. Will Fuller, I'm just still going to include him because this game should be a shootout. His price went up $1,500 after dropping 56.7. I had about 60% of him in my lineups. I told you guys that he was going to go off, and he did. So if you watch this podcast, you probably made some money. Then Stephon Diggs, we're going to include him again. Eagles struggle against wide receivers. It's hard picking the one wide receiver on the Vikings that's going to do it. Sometimes they both do. Sometimes it's just Thielen. Sometimes it's just Diggs. So we're going to include both of them. Obviously, like the Vikings at home against Philly through the air. Next up, we have Auden Tate. Had him last week. He didn't have a ton of volume. Did score a touchdown. At 4,500, he's in a pretty good spot. With John Ross being out, it's really just him and Tyler Boyd against Baltimore. Baltimore ranks 23rd against wide receivers, so he's a pretty good value play this week. Then down here, Odell Beckham. Not the greatest matchup, but I'm just going to include Beckham till he goes off. He's due to have a really big game. Seattle's secondary is pretty good against wide receivers, but overall their defense isn't what it once was. Seattle, I'll say this, if Cleveland can figure out their O-line problems, Odell Beckham will have a good game. Baker Mayfield's under duress immediately as soon as he gets the ball. They got some big O-line problems, so once they figure that out, I think Odell could have a pretty good game maybe this week against Seattle. Last guy a couple more guys I'm going to include, but one of the last guys is Alshon Jeffrey. If I remember correctly, I'm a Vikings fan, and I always say that the Vikings defense is really good at home. But if I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure that Alshon Jeffrey has has gotten the better of Xavier Rhodes in his matchups against him. I'll have to double check that, but off the top of my head, I'm pretty sure Alshon Jeffrey has done well against Xavier Rhodes, so I'm going to include Alshon Jeffrey. And then we really like this Arizona-Atlanta game, so we're going to include Calvin Ridley as well. Calvin Ridley is kind of touchdown dependent, but I mean, if he gets you 20 or even 20 or 19 or 16 at 5,700, that's a pretty good spot. We'll include Calvin Ridley this week. Nobody down here in the cheapies, so we'll let that go. We'll get into tight ends. Our tight ends this week, again, we have another smaller tight end player pool, just not a whole lot that I like. First off is George Kittle, 5,200 against the Rams. I'm not including Zach Ertz. You remember me telling you last week that the Vikings defense against tight ends is extremely good, and everyone said, well, Evan Ingram's one of the best tight ends in the league. I think they held him to 2 catches for like 15 yards. So don't play tight ends against the Vikings. I'm telling you that right now. Even though Ertz is one of the best, he's a big body tight end. He'll probably have about 6-7 catches, but unless he scores a touchdown, he's not going to get there. Next up is Austin Hooper. Playing tight ends against Arizona has just been easy money. Dead last in the NFL against tight end position. He's priced up a little bit. He's $5K. Nothing too crazy there, but I think you're going to see a lot of people move to Kittle and Ertz because they have cheaper price tags. But Hooper's in a smash spot too. Then the last guy I included was Travis Kelce. Like I said, I love the Kansas City-Houston game. Houston's actually pretty good against tight ends, but when you get a guy like Kelce, it doesn't really matter. Kelce's in a pretty good spot here. Defenses. First defense I like is obviously the Cowboys. Eagles just sacked the New York Jets 10 times, plus 2 defensive touchdowns. Gotta like the Cowboys. Excluding the Seahawks here against the Cleveland Browns. Titans I'm interested in. Niners, no. Ravens, yes. Saints, no. Broncos, yes. Eagles, yes. Browns, no. Vikings, yes. Chiefs, no. Rams, no. Redskins, no. Dolphins I'm interested in just because they finally get a team that isn't going to blow them out of the waters. So I included them, and then I pretty much excluded everybody else down here. We'll get into lineup optimizer. We'll make a lineup on DraftKings and FanDuel real quick here. So the first lineup that we're doing is on DraftKings. I think I want to get to Kyler Murray and Fitz, Kamara. We can leave Tate in there. I really want to get to Hopkins pretty much everywhere. So let's put Hopkins here. Might be a 2 tight end week actually, just because of how cheap the tight ends are. But let's get down from Devontae Freeman, plug in a guy. Not a whole lot to like down there. See, with these quarterbacks being priced up, it makes it kind of hard to get everybody that you want. See if we could get someone down here. This is a 2 tight end look, but which is normally not something I like to do, but there's just not a whole lot that I'm liking. We could go Mixon. Let's put Kittle here. Let's put Kittle here. Let's see what we got opened up. Yeah, we're getting cheap again. See if we can drop down from Denver's defense. Get the Vikings or the Dolphins. Let's go for net. See what we can get then. Something like this: Kyler Murray, Leonard Fournette, Joe Mixon, Auden Tate, Larry Fitzgerald, DeAndre Hopkins, George Kittle, Brandon Cooks, Dolphins defense, or you could go to the Vikings at home. Leaves 100 on the board. I think that's a solid lineup. FanDuel. Jeez, let's go Kyler Murray again over here with the pricing. Yeah, let's go Kyler Murray. I don't think we need to get to Fuller at that price. Kittle. I think you could definitely go 2 tight ends this week. I think it's not a necessity, but I think it's something you can do. I want Kamara over here, though. Let's go. It's hard for me to pick Hooper, even though he's in such a good matchup. Is Tyreek Hill still banged up? Is he back? Looks like he's going to be back this week. I don't know. Something tells me to play the Dolphins defense this week. Something like this on FanDuel: Kyler Murray, Leonard Fournette, Alvin Kamara, Larry Fitzgerald, Auden Tate. I don't know if we have to go to Tate, but Calvin Ridley, Adam Thielen, George Kittle, Julio Jones, Dolphins defense. I actually like that quite a bit more. I like this lineup better than I like my first one. Anyways, that's what we're looking at this week, guys. Thanks for stopping by. Click the thumbs up button. Enjoy your week. We will post in the comments any updates that we are adding, if we're adding players in and out. Here's my Watch Players tab. Remember, if you sign up through the link that I use, you'll get access to this even when I change it. It'll have a timestamp on it. So you'll get to see who I'm adding in and who I'm taking out. Thanks for stopping by this week, guys. Good luck and win-win.